When I was a kid, it was my dream job to be a video game developer. That dream never happened. I remember first really deciding that in 5th grade and having all these ideas of what I'd want to make. I began drawing down concepts for designs and writing down features that it would include and drawing out battlescapes and all these things. I even began researching all these different tools that you can use to develop video games, the Autodesk Maya and Mudbox. I had no idea what I was doing and never made any progress or made anything that even closely resembled a video game, but the idea of it was what excited me. I'd also spent a lot of time thinking about where I'd want to work, who would I want to work for. I ended up deciding on BioWare because they were so cool and they made so many amazing games that I loved. Dragon Age, Mass Effect, KOTOR. I remember looking at the employee page and seeing all the perks that they had of being an employee. You had a cafeteria where you could go and make food, and a gym where you could go and exercise, and a lounge area if you needed a break. It looked so amazing. It looked so inclusive and fun and such a happy place to be. Not only were you making video games, but the environment was awesome. The benefits were amazing. What could be better? I really wanted to go to Full Sail because that's where everybody went who wanted to be a video game developer. They touted so many people who went there and now work at BioWare and Bethesda and Ubisoft. I even called them up and asked what I would need to prepare. They told me I needed a graphics pad and to get this and to get that. That obviously never happened. I never became a video game developer. As a matter of fact, on the verge of going to college, I abandoned my dream. I decided it was a life that I didn't want. I did a lot of research on the topic, and inevitably, I was going to start finding the things that were not so great. I think the first time I learned about the negativity that can happen in the video game industry, I was with a group of friends and we were talking about how amazing it would be to make video games, and they were talking about how they wanted to be a bug tester because you get to sit down and get paid to play video games. What could be better than that? But then one of them there pointed something out. He said that being a bug tester was the worst part of the industry because you would have to play the same game over and over again for hours, and then you'd finally find something wrong. And you'd go and you'd tell the developer who needs to fix it, and they would be mad at you. They would hate you. How dare you come to me with this problem? How dare you find something wrong with my game? You saying that I screwed up? You saying that I can't make video games? Is that what you're telling me? That idea surprised me. Why would they be mad? Why would they be so upset? Wouldn't you be happy? Wouldn't you want to fix this? This person just came to you and said, hey, we can make this game better if you solve this problem. Wouldn't you appreciate that? But in all my research, I started to learn more and more about the industry itself. The next thing I learned about was crunch time. I knew about working long hours. My dad worked insane hours. My dad worked 12 hours a day, sometimes more. 7 days a week. I didn't get to see him a lot as a kid because he worked so much. It wasn't that new to me, but it still concerned me a little bit. The idea of having to sit down and just work endlessly, and if you want to leave, you can't. That was what concerned me. My dad worked long hours because he chose to. He didn't have to, and in many ways he did feel pressured to, but it was his decision. No one was telling him that he had to be there, but that's not how it was for video game development. It was time to go home, and you get out of your seat and you get ready to go, and your boss comes up to you and says, what are you doing? We have a lot of work to do. You can't just go now. We need you. Your friends need you. Your coworkers. If you leave here, that means they have more work to do. They're not leaving. They're staying because they care about the game. They care about the company. They care about you. Why would you abandon them like this? It was guilt that forced these people to stay, not desire or interest in what they were doing. They were made to feel bad so they could work harder. I didn't want that. What if I have kids at home? What am I supposed to do? And that's when I discovered that those perks at these places, at these jobs, they weren't there to make me feel comforted. You don't need to leave. You don't need to go make food. You can just go make food in the cafeteria, eat it, and come back and continue your work. You don't have to go home. Oh, it's late and you have a long drive home and then you have to come back? That's okay. Don't worry about it. You can just sleep in the lounge. What's that? Your legs have atrophied from sitting at the desk all day? Ah, it's okay. Go pick up the dumbbell in the corner for a few seconds, but not too long because Then you won't be working. You'll be hurting your coworkers. You don't want to do that, do you? The idea that people had to work so much that sometimes they would sleep there, that was concerning. And then I found out what happens after all that hard work. After all that dedication that you put into the company, you worked so hard for them, you stayed there, you crunched 100 hours a week to get this game done. And now that the game is finally out, you're getting fired. It's time for you to go. We don't want you. We have our money. We don't need you anymore. After doing all that, they just throw you out the door. Like you didn't mean anything. How am I supposed to settle down? How am I supposed to raise a family when I don't even know if I'm going to be able to be here in a year, 2 years, 3 years? When I might have to upend everything and move halfway across the country, sometimes even out of the country just to find another job? I don't want to deal with that kind of stress, that kind of lifestyle. That's not a welcoming environment. That in itself was enough to make me decide that I didn't want to be a part of this industry. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg. Because a few years later, we started to find out that it was a lot worse than we could have ever imagined. I remember when the report came out, when Anthem was released, about what the work environment was like at BioWare. The place that I dreamed of working one day. There were people who had been worked so hard that they developed PTSD. The same thing that military personnel get when they kill people, other people were getting for making video games. This problem became so rampant and common that they even had an official name for it. They called it a stress casualty. Somebody who's been worked so hard that they leave the industry for good, that they never make a video game ever again. But this isn't just BioWare's fault. This doesn't just happen at one place. This kind of thing is happening everywhere. Even the places that you think are great, even the places that you love, they're still doing this. And when this happens in other levels of the industry, at other places, they call it burnout. But this isn't burnout. When I, as a YouTuber, work too much on a specific thing and need to take a break, that's burnout. When I get burnout, I can step away for a few days, play a few video games, and then come back with a fresh new idea, do something completely different. But they don't have that option. If you speak out about these problems, try to go public, try to tweet about it, try to go to the journalists, they'll blacklist you. You're out of the industry. What are you supposed to do then? You have a degree in video game development. You have skills specifically useful to this industry. You have a life that's built off of this. What are you supposed to do? And that's just what it's like to be in the video game industry as someone like me. But if you're a woman, if you're a black man, it gets a lot worse. And we're only finally really starting to understand how bad it can really be in this industry. This isn't new. This isn't an isolated problem. This has been going on the entire time. These problems, and they happen everywhere. Over a year ago, we heard about Ubisoft and all their problems, the sexual harassment from upper management, the lack of initiative from HR, the fact that the developers couldn't even make a game about a girl. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they were forced to include the man in that game. I've heard people try and say that if a video game is forced to have a female character, it might affect the story that they wanted to make. That's exactly what happened for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, except for with the guy. They had to dumb down that game. They had to change much of the story to fit having to include a male. Just because the upper management don't think that people want to play games with girls in them. And now we're hearing about Blizzard and their parent company Activision and the rampant sexual harassment that happens there. People being degraded, people being groped, not only by their coworkers, but by their supervisors. People being fired because they went to HR, people being blacklisted from the industry. If you're in that situation, if you're a girl, what are you supposed to do? And right now, as I'm saying this, Blizzard is currently doing everything they can to make it look like they care. Getting rid of their CEO, rearranging some of the supervisors, rearranging HR. It's the same thing that Ubisoft did. And you know what we're hearing about right now? Nothing changed at Ubisoft. A lot of those people that they supposedly got rid of, they just moved them to a different department. They didn't care. As long as people stopped writing about them in their journal articles and on Twitter, that's what mattered to them. And that's what's going to happen here. Blizzard doesn't give a shit. Blizzard doesn't care that these people have been sexually harassed. Blizzard doesn't care that people are developing PTSD because of their work environment. It's the people who run this place that are doing these things. And at the end of the day, the only thing they care about is their company, their image. It's not them who's being harassed. It's not them whose family life is being ruined. They can go home whenever they want. And now as all this is happening, I'm already seeing arguments between these same employees who are suffering these same problems about how they should fix these things. Some people are calling for unionization, and then other people suffering these same issues are saying that we can't have unions. We can't have government intervention. We can't have somebody step in to help us because they'll just make things worse. But who told them that? Who told them that including somebody else in their problems would make things worse? It's the same companies who are causing these problems for these people. Now, that's not to say that unions are perfect things. That's not to say that they've never had problems of their own. But the whole reason why these institutions exist is to help employees, to help the people at the bottom who don't have a voice. Yeah, sure, there might be some bad that happens at the union. There might be some bad that happens from government intervention. But it's already as bad as it gets. And it's clearly never going to change. These companies don't give a shit. These companies aren't interested in fixing these problems. They created these problems. They knew they were happening this entire time. Do you think they care? They're already planning on firing you at the end of the development cycle. These developers, they don't mean anything to them. I still would love to make a video game someday, but not at the cost of such suffering. I know this video has been a lot more depressing than usual. If you want something that's a bit more uplifting, you can go watch my recent video. I did one on Sword of Legends Online. It's a pretty cool MMO that I've been playing. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Goodbye.